It is time once again for a LEGO Star Wars review. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Rustabout Collector here, and today we are taking a look at LEGO Star Wars Set 75337, the ATTE Walker. Now this set retails for $139.99 and comes in at a whopping 1,082 pieces. Now, a few hours of build time later, and you are greeted with this, the first LEGO Star Wars ATTE since 2018. Now, regrettably, I don't have any of the previous versions of this set to compare it to. This is my first ATTE build, and let me tell you, I had a blast building this, putting it all together. If you want to see a cool comparison though, Solid Brick Studios here on YouTube did a comparison between this one and all the previous versions of the ATTE. It was really fascinating to see and just see how they've changed throughout the years. But I do know that this one bears a lot of similarities to the 2018 version, including in size and some of the build structure. But even if you have that one, I'm pretty sure I know why most of you would want to buy this set. Now, the build itself is very impressive, but I think what is also equally impressive is the lineup of figures that we are getting here. In total, we get 5 clone troopers, 3 battle droids, and a brick-built spider droid. And of course, paramount among all these figures is the Phase 2 Commander Cody that I think everyone has been excited for. But before we take a look at the figures, we have to look at this set overall. Now, I think this set does an absolutely wonderful job of capturing the look and shape of an ATTE. Also, what stood out to me is how these panels all line up so well. There are some gaps between panels, but overall it's very nicely closed and gives it the feel of a unified armored body. While building this, a lot of the panels and legs are all the same build with just a few minor variations, but it never felt repetitive to put these pieces together. They did a good job of mixing it up. The design was really satisfying to put together, and I never felt like I was just, building the same thing over and over and over again. It never felt like a boring slog to get through this build. This set also required several different stickers to be applied, though not as many as some might expect on a build of this size, which I do appreciate. They were all pretty straightforward and they went on with ease, and I'm glad that they didn't really overdo it here. This number of stickers for a set of this size feels okay with me. For play features, you have an opening cockpit allowing you to place one single figure in the driver's seat, and that just slides right back in on rails. On top of the walker, you have this rotating turret, which you can spin in a full 360-degree range, and also the barrel is articulated on a little Technic pin there. On either side of the barrel, you get these little stud shooters. They can easily be removed just by taking them off of that little panel there, maybe putting some more studs to cover them up. But honestly, this new design for the stud shooter isn't as obnoxiously in your face as the previous one was, so I don't mind keeping these on this set. And of course, you can depress the little button there and fire the studs. The gunner's seat on that turret has a nice printed tile there, and there are no studs for the seat, so a minifigure sitting here is really just held in by gravity and friction. Now this panel can also be lifted up, allowing you play access to this front area of the walker. Now inside there you have a small wrench, a weapons rack with some thermal detonators on it. You also have a removable little ammo canister there, and you can also remove this whole section here with seating, allowing you to place 2 figures inside. There is also sort of a simulated doorway there, kind of giving you the idea that you could walk from this doorway here into the back of the walker. It doesn't actually go through though. There are bricks that are separating the 2 sections, but it is, a nice idea. Like you could pretend that you had a clone trooper in here and he walks to the back maybe to man these rear guns. Now this rear section actually opens up for a lot better access, and I love this little latch design using Technic ratchet pieces with standard clip pieces. But that just detaches like that, folds down, and then these 2 fold upwards. Now this compartment has room for 5 figures, one of whom is manning this little targeting system for the rear cannons. You also have a little fire extinguisher, a drinking cup, and a weapons rack there in the corner. While it is a bit of a tight squeeze, the figures do fit in there without much trouble at all, and you can close the ship back up for transport. Now while we are looking at the top of the model, we may as well cover this as well. There is a recessed carry handle that you can just pull up and just link your fingers through, lifting up the model with relative ease and with no fear of pieces falling off. And when it's not in use, I like the way that it just folds right back down and you really don't even notice it, especially in side profile. And as with previous models of the ATTE, the legs are pretty much just free floating, dangling there, and as you place it down, they fold into position. There is no articulation with individual legs that will allow them to hold their position. They are just free to pivot as needed, and so again, as you place it down, it will stand up every time. One thing that I am not quite sure about, but would really love to know, is if this ATTE could be transported by the carrier gunship that came with the ATOT. That is, of course, everyone's Grail set. It is also a personal Grail of mine that I don't think I will ever own unless LEGO re-releases it. But I would love to know if this set could actually be mounted on it. So overall, I feel that this is a very solid build. It was a lot of fun to put together, as I already said, and once you have it all assembled, it is very satisfying to look at. It just has a very impressive shelf presence. I love the use of dark gray and light gray to separate some of these panels, and none of it feels gappy or out of place or poorly assembled. It just seems very well put together and feels like a giant tank. It feels armored, all the panels fit together well. The articulated elements with these ball turrets and the swivel up here and the ability to place a figure in the cockpit gives some really cool display options with this. You know, you could definitely put this in mocks, you could put this on a shelf and it would still look just as good. And with that in mind, in case you're trying to put this on a shelf, I'm going to do something I don't normally do in videos, but I did this right before recording for myself to see if it would fit on a shelf. And so if you're wondering, from turret to turret here, it is 15 inches. If you measure from the end of this top turret to this back turret, it is 17 inches. But because this one can be rotated, if the shelf maybe didn't fit, you could just pivot this out a little bit and shorten the overall length. And likewise, measuring it from the widest position, which are these two middle feet, it is 9 inches from the left to the right. And so, of course, you need a shelf depth of 9 inches or more. So this behemoth does take up quite a bit of shelf space. That could be a deterrent for some, but I still do think that this is worth it. If you can make the space for it, I highly recommend it. And once you're all done with this build, you are left with these leftover pieces, including some extra translucent studs there for the stud shooters. You get a full set of orange helmet accessories for Commander Cody, or really any clone trooper that these can attach to. And you also get an extra little printed thermal detonator piece, which I think is a really nice piece to have. But most important to me have to be these extra orange clone trooper elements. I will show why at a later point in this video, but yeah, this is definitely a nice little inclusion to have. Now then, is this a side build? Is this a buildable figure? I don't know how you necessarily want to classify this, but the spider droid is also included, and it has a pretty satisfying little build. I think this is a copy of some previous versions that we've seen, or at least largely similar, so it's nothing terribly new, but it's always good to get some additional separatist characters here. The use of dark and light gray creates a nice contrast here, and the red glowing eyes are quite menacing. I know a lot of fans are disappointed that we did not get a crab droid. I personally would have loved to see a crab droid done in an official LEGO set, but as a consolation prize, this does work. You know, we have seen it before, but it works. It gives you something for this giant walker to fight, or maybe just to step on and squish. After all, this definitely doesn't seem like a very fair fight. But I would say, as far as capturing the look and feel of a spider droid, using this Hasbro 3 3/4 inch one as an example of what they look like in universe, they do a pretty good job here. The leg articulation is really nice. There is a translucent cylinder there to keep it supported underneath. And yeah, it gets the job done. Now then, moving on to figures, starting things off with a very boring but necessary entry, we have 3 standard battle droids. Each includes a gunmetal gray blaster rifle, and there's really nothing new here. These are the standard battle droids that we have gotten before. I do wish that maybe one of these had been painted as a commander. It has been a while since we've gotten a proper droid officer in a set. This would have been the perfect one to include that with, but alas, we did not get that. So while this doesn't bring anything terribly new to the table, I appreciate the idea of making this sort of a playset. You get the walker, you get some droids, you can have a little battle of Utapau right in your living room. Now then, everyone's favorite inclusion, we have the 4 clone troopers that we get included in this set. We get 3 of the standard 212th clone troopers, this time updated in the new printing style from like the 501st Battle Pack, and we get an updated printing on the Clone Trooper Gunner. We have seen these characters made several times in the LEGO Star Wars universe, however this is all new printing and an all new helmet design. Each of these Clone Troopers features the newly updated Tamora Morrison head underneath, and they have nicely detailed back printing as well. Now I know another big point of contention with this figure was the little The little triangle, the orange triangle that is offset just a smidge too low on the visor. I understand that people are disappointed that it doesn't match the original renders. Even the box art shows the little triangle. Even the box art and the instructions show it forming a better triangle than it does on the actual figure. But personally, it doesn't really bother me here. The figures are stylized, and while it would be nice if they were a little bit more precise with that printing, I can still look at this and see that it is a 212th Clone Trooper. Perhaps eventually LEGO will do a running change and update that printing there, but in the meantime, I'm okay with this. Like, this doesn't bother me. And to the people that are going out and requesting replacement parts because this is misprinted, you're just kind of abusing the system at this point. And hopefully LEGO never takes away that system where you can order replacement parts, but I've seen so many people ordering new helmets because these are quote-unquote misprinted, and then they just get this same helmet in the mail, and yeah, that just feels like it's kind of abusing the system, because at this point, this is the official printing. If LEGO ever announces that they are updating the printing on these and that they will send out replacements, then I will probably contact them and say, hey, can I get some replacement helmets just because? But until then, this is what we get, and this is what we got, and I'm okay with it. I enjoy it. Now, this new style of printing means that these new troopers will stack up very nicely next to the 187th troopers and the 501st troopers that we've gotten in previous sets. A lot of people really liked the detail of the Revenge of the Sith style troopers that we were getting back in like the 2012 era. However, I think this more stylized, animated look captures a better LEGO feel for the troopers. If you try to pack too much detail onto a LEGO figure, it doesn't work, because LEGO at its core is a stylized art form. The designs of torso prints and head prints and LEGO sets even are all meant to be a stylized representation of what we see on screen or in a video game or what have you. So personally, this update just captures a lot of that charm that LEGO brings to the table. It's more animated, it's less realistic, but it is very LEGO. Of course, this means that they may not match previous troopers in your collection, but that's not the first time that LEGO has done something like that. I'm sure people were probably upset when they released animated Clone Wars troopers and those didn't line up with previous versions. So personally, I don't mind this change. I'm just glad that they are making all the clone troopers the same. The only minor difference that we're seeing is that these new helmets have the holes drilled in them and the older ones do not. Speaking of the hole in the helmet, here is the old helmet design with no attachment points and the new design that includes the attachment points on both sides of the helmet. The helmet mold overall hasn't really changed, the shape is the same, but it's just adding those little ports that allow you to plug in Clone Trooper accessories. I think this is a really cool improvement to an already classic Clone Trooper design, because now you can make your own little custom Clone Trooper units. They can have visors and antennas, and they are also compatible with all the old gray, black, and dark red pieces from the old Clone Wars lines, so you could have a lot of fun with just adding different pieces to your Clone Troopers. And this change was primarily implemented for one very specific reason, and that is Phase 2 Clone Commander Cody. Now, for some time, fans have requested this figure. He is definitely a fan favorite in both the action figure community and the LEGO community, so it's great that LEGO has finally made a Phase 2 Clone Commander Cody. The figure has some really nice printing, and it definitely has a unique pattern compared to the standard 212th Clone Trooper. At first I thought the visor would look a little bit clunky, but it definitely just has a LEGO feel to it. This matches all the previous Clone Troopers that we've gotten that use visors, and yeah, it looks very LEGO. It may not be accurate to Revenge of the Sith, but keep in mind, guys, this is a LEGO set. This is meant to be stylized. It's meant to be Legoized even. That might be a new term for it. Yeah, this is a Legoized Clone Commander Cody. It's not a Hot Toys figure. But even so, they have included a lot of detail, like the printed jetpack on his back there, and they've also given him an updated face print, giving him a more grimacing look, as well as the scar running through his eyebrow. Little details like that just make this figure so much better, and I appreciate LEGO's attention to detail here. And even though this is meant to represent his appearance in Revenge of the Sith, this figure does stack up really nicely next to Captain Rex. They don't stand out next to each other because of the different print styles. I think they look very cohesive. And honestly, the biggest difference is just when you remove the helmet and you see the different skin tone as well as the different print styles. I, for one, would personally love an updated Captain Rex in this new 2020 style of printing, and I did also see that they're adding him into LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, so maybe that means we might see him in LEGO form sooner than we think. That would be awesome. Now there is one final thing I want to talk about while we're talking about Commander Cody here, and that is these extra orange visors. Now I already showed you can add these to your other 212 clone troopers, make some custom clones, they look great. But when I saw these, I had one thought, and one thought only. Phase 1 Commander Cody finally gets the visor he deserves. The original figure came with these gray armor pieces, which are great, they were good for the time, but it's not accurate to what he looks like in the show. So with these new visors, we can now officially have Phase 1 and Phase 2 Clone Commander Cody looking pretty close to what they do in their respective media. I know it's literally just the color of the visor, but it is such a cool change to be able to add. So seeing all of it here, I can honestly say that this has to be the best LEGO set of all of 2022. I mean that in terms of build quality. This set was a lot of fun to build and it looks impressive once it's all done. I mean that in terms of value. You are getting a ton of figures for the $140 price point, along with over 1,000 pieces in this build, and they're not all a bunch of little like 1x1 pieces. These are panels and plates and larger pieces. And of course, in terms of minifigures, you are getting a bunch. You get 5 clone troopers, which is the most clone troopers in one set, apart from the AT-OT and dropship set. That is saying a lot. And even if we didn't get the droids and we just got this, that would still be an incredible, incredible set. Previous AT-TE walkers only came with like 1 or 2 clones and some Jedi, and it didn't feel complete. Now you can fully deck out your AT-TE with troopers, and it looks awesome. Now me personally, I will probably try and pick up a couple more of these figures from Bricklink, maybe just a couple extra 212 and an extra gunner to put in the driver's seat. You know, things like that. I don't think I'm gonna pick up a second one of these unless I can find it on sale or something crazy like that. But yeah, just a couple extra troopers to fill in the compartments, kind of army build them a little bit, and an extra gunner, just because you need 2 to fill out the operator positions here in the walker. But really, for a set in 2022, this has everything I could ask for. It has more than enough clone troopers to make this a valuable set. It has a lot of fun play features and just has a good build experience overall, which is so important when building a LEGO set. If you were only going to get one LEGO set out of the 2022 lineup, this would have to be the one. This is just the best LEGO set that we have seen in quite a while in terms of everything: value, minifigure selection, build quality. It's the total package when I think of buying a LEGO set. Now, if I could make one nitpick, my only nitpick with this entire set would just be to replace one of these clone troopers. Replace one of these 212th clone troopers with the airborne trooper that came in the Grievous Starfighter set, because that is the only place currently that we can get an updated 2022 print style airborne trooper, and it came in a Grievous Starfighter set. That has to be one of the weirdest decisions of all time, but this would have been the perfect place to include that figure again, especially since that set has been retired now, which means the figure price is going to go up. But apart from that, this set is nearly perfect in every way, and I am so glad I was able to pick one up. Now, if you're trying to pick one of these up yourself, I highly recommend checking lego.com, checking target.com. Both of those sites have this set going in and out of stock periodically, so check there. At the time of recording this, it's actually in stock on both sites, so you might have good luck just getting it without any kind of wait time at all. But that is where we're going to wrap this video up. So as always, there's a link down in the description to my social media, my Instagram, all that good stuff if you want to follow me over on those other platforms. Please leave a like on this video and be sure to comment what you think about this set. Is this your favorite set of 2022, or is there a better one? But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful evening, noon, or night, depending on when you're watching this video. And as always, I'll catch you all in the next video.